Good evening, everybody. We are here at the Administration Building for the Fayette County School Board of Trustees monthly business meeting. It's Tuesday, April 9th. Let's all stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, I'd like to begin with asking for a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
I'll give that motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now it's time for any public comments on agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from the regular business meeting of 3/12/24 and the executive sessions 3/12/24 and 3/19/24. Personnel report, including retirements, resignations, leaves of absence, etc. The approval of the March 2024 claims 67465 to 67682. Donations. A donation of $500 from the class of 1991 to the CHS Science Department in memory of Mr. Andy Benz to be used for a skeleton. A donation of $2,500 from the Fayette County Foundation to the CHS softball team to be used to purchase more safety equipment. So seeing the consent agenda, I'd like to seek a motion to approve.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ryan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Action items. Mr. Harris.
Guys, that sound like waking me up. I'm awake.
No,
but
the
listen,
emotion behind it, believe
but
me.
listen closely, because this, I think, may be the shortest one that I remember. I have one recommendation for employment, recommending Sharon Green under classified staff for the developmental pre-K education assistant at Little Spartan. Also, the administration is requesting authorization to issue support personnel, bus drivers, substitute teachers, and substitute custodians serving less than 12 months a letter of intent to reemploy for the 24-25 school year.
Okay, seeing the personnel report, I'd like to seek a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Ryan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Outdoor painting, Mr. Harris, at the high school.
This is one we actually looked into doing, and we just didn't get enough time in the fall to get it done before winter, so we went out, solicited 3 quotes here in the spring to get started, but I am requesting approval to power wash and paint all of the siding trim at Connersville High School. It will match the field house color as we go around, and requesting permission to go with that for $65,270 with RH Porter Contracting.
Okay, thank you for that.
Where are they out of, Mr. Harris?
I think technically they're Centerville,
It's what-
but
on the
they,
backside, it has their.
yeah, they've done a lot of work for us and have done a really good job. They're kind of, I almost call them the handyman. They kind of do the construction projects and little things. Right now, they gave us the low quote for the dugouts at the baseball diamond. They've done multiple
They
things.
built
so.
the building at top of 3rd Street Hill too, if you notice that new little building there.
That went up overnight?
They built that too,
Yeah.
a whole building, so.
I forget, what's the threshold when you have to do bids as opposed to just hiring someone?
They've changed the law on that.
Okay.
The law now says over $250,000 before
Okay.
you have to do a formal bid.
Okay,
So between 50 and 250 is now solicit the 3 quotes.
okay. Alrighty. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the CHS outdoor painting.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of resolution 2024-02, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs and Board. Randy and I have worked with Tammy Ortman. She's one of the partners with our attorney, Michelle Cooper, with Louis Kappas, and she specializes in real estate with public entities. So we at your direction, have looked at how we can sell the Resource Center property at $1,600 grand. So if you recall, we did solicit formal appraisals last year, and they were skewed quite a bit. But there are ways that we can dispose of this property. We just need this resolution to give, basically it would be Randy and me, permission to act as agents for the district. It could also include the board president and secretary if you want to be involved in that as well. But what we would like to do, what our thinking is, with approval, we can act as the agent to review and respond to community interest in the real estate. We can appoint licensed appraisers, or the people purchasing can pay for those appraisals. There's some flexibility there with what Tammy shared. And then you also permit us to enter into negotiations for the purchase of that real estate. So it allows us to be the agents on behalf of the district and the board to oversee that process, but it would still require board approval for any decision about it, and we would keep you informed. We do know of 3, I've talked to 3 local business people. Our thinking is, if you approve this, we would go ahead and put information out there that we have permission to act in this capacity. You know, Lori has a broad background. That may be something you could appoint her to work with us as well, but the board's giving us permission to act as agents to do that. And we would like to then solicit whoever would like to come and meet with us to talk about it, get information, and then they could submit information to us to be considered for purchase of that property.
I would love for Lori to be involved in that if she's willing, just because she's got the expertise, and I don't know unless anybody else is.
I think Lori would be great.
You can
Commercial
designate
and-
her as your representative. You don't need that in the resolution.
Right,
So
but-
really, you're just giving us permission to begin the process.
You do all the work.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what this resolution is, Resolution 2024-02.
Okay.
And
I
this
would
is,
say maybe even a little bit more detail. I mean, this is just the first step of it for the community and all those things. The first step is really we can talk to whoever we want to talk to. Ultimately, then, this isn't one we're just going to say, hey, here's a price, and the board take it or leave it. The board then will have, somewhere down the line for transparency, there will have to be a public hearing if it ever gets to the point that there's a legitimate proposal. The board also, though, is allowed, when you're purchasing or selling property, either way, it is one of the ways agreed to by law that you can have an executive session. So I want the board also to feel comfortable knowing that whatever happens here, we can come back and then say, here's what we found out. And ultimately then,
How long does this process take? I guess.
it could take months.
Um,
You know, it's
it could take
something.
weeks.
It just depends on how quick a response you get.
Right, getting appraisals, if we need to get another appraisal or two, that takes a little time. It can be slow, but, and it's clarified, it's a public meeting. There's no hearing that has to be held with this, it's just designated. as a
Yeah, this
public-
part is just,
It's a public meeting when the board would consider that,
Okay.
that you have to notify the public and approve that in public with the transaction, so.
Okay.
This just gives us the process to start it and to start talking with people. And like I said, there are 3 business people that have communicated with me in the last year. And so we would reach out to them and, you know, maybe see if we could get it out in the newspaper and let people know that we're starting the process. So,
All right.
okay.
I would like to seek a motion to approve approve resolution 2024-02.
I still
Thank
move.
you, Mark. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Education Hall of Fame Selection Committee, Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Last year, we did not have any nominees, so I'm hoping we get some nominees this year for our Hall of Fame. And in Board Policy 3.51, it provides a direction that the board will establish a Hall of Fame Selection Committee made up of 5 people. The superintendent of schools will make appointments to this committee as deemed necessary. So I'm asking you to affirm the appointment of parent Shauna Serqua, patron Devin Hornsby, teacher Shauna McHenry for 2-year terms for 24 and 25. Mark Beard will complete his 2-year term this year and then join myself on the Hall of Fame. So I'm seeking your permission to formalize the selection committee for this school year and for the 2-year terms for the 3 individuals.
How do we advertise or communicate this to the community? Because, I mean, I don't know what got in the way of of people not applying? Because I thought we've always had steady things such that we haven't, we've had to not pick some people that.
We've had such a big change in the number of teachers that retired and all the young teachers, and I think that's affected part of it.
Yeah.
That we don't have nearly as many retiring in the last 10 years.
So
It's
is
advertised in the paper, on our
Okay.
website, I believe our schools.
Each of our schools
Each of
send
our
it home.
schools send it.
It's well
Okay.
advertised.
Okay.
I think
okay.
Mark's right, I think it's just we don't have as many teachers retiring.
Yeah.
It's kind of a gap there.
And the unfortunate part is too, some people who retired years ago, people forget, they don't realize you can find all of our Hall of Fame individuals posted.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a recent
No.
retiree.
No, and I think that's a really big issue, because some years, there have been so many people that we've had to make cuts. And if the people aren't any longer if they taught years ago, I think that's why it's important to let people know that that's okay if
Right.
it doesn't have to be a recent retiree.
Right. Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the Education Hall of Fame Selection Committee appointments.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Lori, you want to?
I'll second
And we'll have Chris second it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Now it is persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none. Superintendent discussion group reports. I think this was the time Ann and I can share. We were both at National School Board Association conference this past weekend in New Orleans. We did not get a lot of time to see New Orleans. I did have enough time to get a henna drawing on my arm. No, it's not a tattoo, but that was fun, and I even got my tarot cards read. These are all New Orleans things, but actually the tarot cards were at NSBA in the vendor room, which was kind of interesting, so I didn't pay anything. Zero, paid zero.
It was.
But we had, the two keynotes were phenomenal. Ruby Bridges came, and if you know her story, in 1960, she was the first black child to enter a white school, it was the beginning of segregation. I know Scott's had an opportunity to meet her personally. She was phenomenal. I think the first question asked of her was a discussion or Q&A with the president of NSBA was, how much has changed since that time? And she gave kind of a haunting response and said that she's very worried about the direction we're going. That you would think a lot of things have changed, but it feels like a lot of those rights are at risk for being stripped away. And it was haunting, I thought.
Yeah, she was very direct, and she says, you have to remember I was 6 years old when this happened. And she's gone on to be very successful, have children and other walks of life, but I think she's seeing a pendulum swinging in a direction that it's very frustrating for her, because it's like, wait a minute, I'm 70 years old now, this happened when I was 6, why are we still dealing with these same issues? Brown versus the Board of Education was passed, my math's bad, 70 years ago, and we're still having to deal with it. It was in 1954.
Yeah. So she was great. And then the other keynote, and while I've heard of him, I did not know his work, Timothy Shriver. He is Eunice Kennedy Shriver's son, John Kennedy's nephew, Maria's brother. Anyway, he has been very active in Special Olympics much of his life. His aunt, Eunice's sister, was developmentally disabled, and Eunice was very active in I'm not sure if it was Special Olympics then, but he's been very active, showed a wonderful video. And now, I thought this was so cool, now the work he's doing is with this group called Dignity Index. And they rate, they talk about how divisive politics have become, and they rank it on a scale of 1 to 9, 1 the lowest, 9 the highest. And 1, and then you just have to use your imagination of all the steps in between. One is where you portray your opponent or the other group as evil, terrible, destroying the world, destroying this country. 9 is where you say, you know what, everybody has value, we all have different opinions. I don't necessarily agree with my counterpart, however, I'm sure they have reasons why they're doing the things they do, and we all have meaning. And I just was blown away by that, and he showed some examples. He showed a speech that their organization had ranked a 9, and oh my gosh, I listened to that politician, I don't know who it was, he's a congressman. He was so fair-minded and so, kind. He was
Right,
kind.
and there was one on either side of the aisle.
Right.
He gave examples from one on either side of the aisle. And then his last piece that he quoted was Lincoln's second inaugural address, with malice toward one and charity for all, let us strive to bind up the nation's wounds. That was written in 1865, people.
Yeah.
And it just really, really,
Yeah, it was very powerful. So those two speakers just knocked it out of the park. I went to a lot of sessions related to boardmanship. That's always what I like to do. I went to a couple of others that were a little different. Lots of good ideas, always bringing back things that you can change about how you do your board work. You network with people. We went to dinner with Centerville School Board one night. That was really nice. It's just a wonderful opportunity. It's just so great. So I don't know if you want to share anything that you...
I went to it. Leslie and I kind of tag team things. I went to some things, she went to different things. I think the one that I was most interested in was a group of kids and high school seniors, and asked what they wanted for their the kids that were coming after them, as far as advantages that they didn't have or things they saw that were lacking that they needed. And basically it came down to, we need teachers, we need administrators, we need school board members who look at us as just not stats and numbers and data, but as children, and are going to encourage us however we can to do our best. And they made comments about bus drivers. They're the first. I thought of something you said, Daryl. These are the first people that they see. These kids wanted somebody just to be kind, to be nice to them, to recognize that they're there, to not be judgmental, particularly in any way, but to just say, we are important and you are responsible for our education. Whether you are a teacher, a bus driver, an administrator, a school board member, don't be detached from us. Know what we're thinking. Don't think it's like Leave It to Beaver anymore, because schools are not. And they kind of put a jab at old people, which I am one. Listen to us. Just really listen to us, not in the context of how you grew up, but a context of where we are in the world that we are living in. And they were fantastic. They were all kids from a big school district actually it was in Utah, but they were from different schools, different walks of life. The one little girl wanted to be a doctor, and nobody in her family had ever gone much farther in education. Another young man wanted to be a mechanic, work on cars. Give us all the opportunities to do this, and don't pigeonhole us. And don't tell us we have to know what we want to do when we're 14. And it was just, they were fantastic. There was a guy from Detroit that was combining vocational education as well as other things. And they were making a school facility out of containers.
Like those big semi-truck.
Like those big semi-truck containers. And how much money it had saved them and it worked for the facility that they wanted. And they had the construction trades, all the trade things doing it. They had the kids basically setting up, this is how much space we need for this. It was fantastic. And he said, we just really have to use all the resources that are there. They're from Detroit, so they had a lot of things that we don't have, but I thought the programming there was really, really, really good.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is, and Ann and I both noticed this, well, I noticed this 2 years ago at COSBA. We're coming out of the pandemic, and many of the sessions focused on how can you have your schools focus on all the good things they're doing. That was the one that resulted in us making those, or the Career Center, or somebody made those decals about, Fayette County School Corporation, and that you could put on your car. It was all about pride because we came out of the pandemic where there was a lot of dissent and a lot of challenges with the public who, weren't always in favor of what we were doing. This time, it was all about strategic planning. I can't tell you how many sessions related to strategic planning. So that is definitely in our future. And, I didn't attend some of those because it was what you do once you have a strategic plan. But those, that's kind of the direction.
One of the things I did is how do we solve 21st century problems with 20th century ideas, and how we have to go on. It gave a history of education and how innovators like Henry Ford had changed the whole idea of education. Any innovator is going, educators are going, well, I'm going to lose this job, and this job, but on the flip side of it, the innovation creates more opportunities. So I think that was one of their focus. But the tenor of the conference was a lot of fun. New Orleans was really an interesting place.
Yeah, it is. All right, we'll move on. Principal Director's Reports. Mr. Jennings, welcome.
I just want to invite the board and cabinet to Everton and Eastview's spring music concert next Monday at 6:30. We'll be at Robert E. Wise. And then on Thursday, we have our Fayette County Elementary Art Show at the Miller Building. That begins at 5 o'clock. Just want to invite everybody.
Thank you. How long is it? 5 to?
5 to 6:30.
Okay.
At the Miller Building.
Thanks. Stephanie.
So you may have seen on social media, we're starting our cross-county kindness challenge in Fayette County. So this is the first of its kind. So, you have I Read 3, we go right into I Learn, that spiral down. So the building always tries to work to focus on the positive in the spring. I always work with my social worker. We do some kind of focus on the good. Whatever you focus on, that's what you get more of. So Ashley and I were just back and forth, and I was like, well, why don't we just include everybody? And then we came up with this kindness challenge, so look for it on social media. It launches this coming week with our social workers. So we're having a traveling kindness trophy for amongst the kids. We have some other things going on in the building to promote kindness. So we're really excited just because it's the first of what we hope is first of many years. So we're excited to just include everybody. So just look for that on social media. You'll see some postings and you'll see us pushing it. So just be aware when you see it, that's what's happening in your elementary schools.
Yeah, I was trying to get the heads up on what they were doing. Stephanie wouldn't tell me.
Wait.
Thank you very much. Director of Operations report.
You have a fund summary in front of you. We continue to be fine there. One thing just outside of the fund summary to let you know, since the last board meeting, we continue to move through. We have 5 different CDs out there. It's starting to dwindle back. Not too far. We just renewed the last CD, I don't know what the date was, March 15th or something like that, for 12 months at 5.2% interest. So we're still above 5%. Still pleased with that. Pleased with the guidance we get from Baker Tilly helps us to get lots of bids. I think they range from probably 4.1% up to the 5.2%. And they also give us a broad range between 9 months out to 2 years this time. they'll solicit, and we felt like the kind of the sweet spot at the moment is the 12-month, and continue to keep those funds invested as long as we can at those type of rates. You're going to see a major difference when it comes budget time and all that, seeing what's happened in the last year compared to what it used to be from, I don't know, 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in that range, all the way up till a year ago.
Thank you for that, Randy. How about Assistant Soup report?
Just a couple of things. First of all, as Stephanie mentioned, we are getting ready to enter iLearn April 15th. So our 3rd graders through 8th graders will all be participating in iLearn. We just completed iRead 3 for our 2nd graders and 3rd graders. I will come back to you after our summer testing session. It's a little hard to come up with numbers right now because we still have one more chance for our kiddos that didn't pass it this session. Our biggest thing will be that the state has required all schools, individual schools, to be 70% or above. So currently we have all of our schools but one that is not at 70%. So we're really working with that school to put in some interventions to make sure that we hit that 70%. If not, then they will be required to use state materials versus what we have adopted. So I will come back in the summer after we have had our intervention period. Some of our kiddos will be taking at the end of May, and then others will go on and do an additional 3-4 weeks of summer school and then take it at the end of summer school.
Is that a new law? The one about the
That's a new one.
state?
Yeah.
This legislative session, or? I missed that.
Yeah.
Was that part of the bill that talked about the iRead and?
It's the whole push
Retaining
for.
kids.
Well, I know about the retaining
It was part of
kids.
that.
Yeah, it is all encompassed into that. So, and in the past, most of those types of accountability pieces are used like a district measure. So like if your district, even with AYP was individual schools, but then most of them were district. But this is individual schools. So each school within your district has to score above 70%. So we're really watching that one individual school just to make sure that we have provided enough intervention. But all of our schools are doing a push for remediation for all kids that didn't pass 3rd grade the first time. And then like I said, we'll have some that will test at the end of May. And then if we feel like they still need an additional 3 or 4 week period, then we'll send them on to summer school. So our final scores won't be out until after everyone's taken it after summer school.
Oh, is that how the state works? Oh, is that new too, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
And what happens is the 2nd graders, if they pass it as 2nd graders, their scores go into this cohort. So you have 2nd graders who passed it as 2nd graders, then you have the current 3rd graders who passed it, and then you have that 3rd testing session, and then they combine them all to give you your average. So right now we have just pieces of information.
Oh,
So,
that's kind of weird.
Do you have any information, Kim, as to how many of our 2nd graders that took it passed it?
yes. Yeah, I will give you that as well.
Okay. I was just curious to see.
Sometimes we forget when something as controversial as retention comes up, it allows for the discussion on everything else that's related to it, which is a good thing. So, your first thought is, we're going to have this retention fight, but the discussion is what may be the most important thing that comes out of it.
Right, and I did, ISBA hosted a coffee hour one morning in New Orleans, and I went to that, and it was a guy from a law firm, Boyce, is it just called Boyce? Boyce Law? I don't know. They're school attorneys and lobbyists, and he was saying that his biggest work right now has been fully informing schools, all the other pieces of that bill that people like me, I got the condensed version. So, those bills are really long and they include a lot more pieces in them than even some school people realize until he guides them, So I was not aware of that piece.
So I will come back with that.
Okay.
And then my final thing is just to let you know that the CHS musical is this weekend, Friday and Saturday night at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. It is The Old Man and the Old Moon. So invite you to that. Adults are $8 and students are $5.
I think the paper covered that today, I think.
Did it? Okay, awesome. Good. That's all I
All right,
have.
thank you. Superintendent report, Collins.
I just want to publicly thank the board for your support of kids and my leadership during this time. And it's bittersweet. I was formally approved tonight at MSD Decatur Township, and you accepted my resignation to the consent agenda, but I just want to thank you. I think we're fortunate here in Fayette County to have a board that is kid-focused and proud of their district, and I fully expect to see that continue down the road, but I just want to just thank you for that. And we have great staff, I told you that in my resignation letter. They're the backbone of our district, our people are. And so they're going to continue doing great things, I'm confident of that. So, thank you.
For the good of the cause. I want the public to know, we did not let Scott go gently into that good night. I'll speak for myself, wish Scott the best. He is certainly the best candidate for that job. And it's our loss, but their gain. Very fortunate, really fortunate. And, we have a great working relationship, and the public needs to know that. I feel like Scott works really hard at relationships, which is what this district is all about. We are really, and he lives it. So we've been all very, very fortunate. That's all I want to say. I don't know if others have anything.
Scott has done so many things since he's been here, and sometimes we forget. We've had some really difficult decisions to make. We've repurposed a building. We've had a lot of people to hire administratively for a variety of reasons. We lived through the pandemic. It has not been an easy road, but we now have some really gems. One of the things I learned at the convention was the Little Spartan Preschool is something that most of the country wishes they had. They are just so impressed with that, and that's Scott. He saw it, he used money in a different way, so we got the Little Spartan Preschool. We built a field house, we've done so many things, and we hate to see him go, but Decatur Township, be careful. Be careful what you wish for. You may have a lot more projects on your plate, which I'm sure that you will accomplish. But just so many things really in a short period of time under difficult circumstances, with the pandemic in particular. We came out of that pretty well. Other schools didn't. So thank you.
It was a team effort. A lot of great people working behind the scenes on that.
Scott, you made our job easier, much. I mean, you're just a Superman as far as
I'm a turncoat, remember?
He also has a turncoat.
I didn't want to say that publicly.
No, I think.
That's what you meant.
We should get him a whole bunch of red and white gear to wear before he leaves,
I know that was not from a
But
place.
just
that-
thank you, Scott, just
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, it looks like it's that time, sir.
We'll make that motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Ryan. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.